The 2021 Endurance E-Racing World Championship Round 2, FilmVolt 12 Hours of Silverstone, is brought to you in partnership with ESTV, Leak Gaming, SimLab, Motorvision.tv, Global Flix, Racing for Green, and AMD Ryzen Radeon.
Welcome back to the final hour of the FilmVolt 12 Hours of Silverstone here on GTR24H. Alex Goldschmidt now being reunited with the man that I started this broadcast with. Can it really be over, what was it, the best part of over 11 hours ago? Yusuf bin Suhal. Yusuf, the rain has really caused a bit of pandemonium here. We've had quite a few changes. I've just noticed that just on the turn of the hour, Marco Massetti actually pitted from the lead in GTE in the number 53 Musto GD Esports car. Zolt Bribek now has relinquished that lead in the GT3 class back to Max Bunovic in the 717. I've also seen quite a few other changes as well, apart from Martin Hemmingsen still continuing to lead the hypercar class by now 4 laps over Omicron Sim Racing's number 80 of Josef Frederick Suto. And then in the LMP2 class, we've just seen that James Juba from Pinsim Jewelers Esports is in the lead. We're having, I think there's an investigation going on as to the amount of laps that have been completed by Vargas Sim Racing, because they came out of the pits, it showed them in P6, but if that is the case, that it is confirmed that there is an issue, it needs to be rectified, and then obviously we'll see a true reflection of how far Vargas Sim Racing are ahead of James Juba from Pinsim Jewelers Esports.
Yeah, that's the big news, the fact that Vargas Sim Racing are down so far. We remember that they did have a penalty, which we think was a stop-and-go penalty, so it would have brought them into the clutches of the 17 of James Zuba. How close, we don't know, because James Zuba was just over a lap behind, but we'll wait for race control to give a final verdict on what has happened to Jiri Toman and Vargas Sim Racing and what will be done potentially to rectify it if there was an issue. But yeah, down in the GT3 classes, I'm getting feelings of deja vu, I'll be honest here, Alex, because it's 14 seconds separating Max Bunovic and Zolt Bribek, which feels like the same thing that we kind of saw at Indianapolis, and it'll all come down to how the strategy plays out at the very end.
Yes, very true there, and I've just heard that I think it's the 166, that is the ID SimSport car in GTE, that's the Porsche 911, has just been given a 3-lap penalty by race control for a rejoin back to the server, and currently in GTE that effectively puts them in 9th and last position. Obviously there was a disqualification for Pescara ADG in number 7, so 90% of the GTE field looking to complete the 12 hours. Also at the moment, the number 51 car, that is of Saul Sanchez, is currently in the pits at the moment. So that is the WOSR iZone performance car that had that trouble. A really good drive, very spirited drive from the Yusuf to get back to 5th place, even though they were in quite clearly contention for the top 3 at the very least here today at the FilmVolt 12 Hours.
Yeah, it's been a great comeback drive. Another couple of drivers that I've been really impressed with has been Volante Racing. They've been in the hunt for that P3 spot. Of course, that was before the issues that transpired for the 54 Musto GD Esports car. But since Daniela Primavera has dropped down the field, Volante Racing find themselves in 3rd and 4th. And Pauli Ahonen only 17 seconds off the back of DIS, and with how strategies can go, you can definitely see him closing that gap over the final hour here for the FilmVolt 12 Hours of Silverstone.
Also have to give a shout out here to the sister ID SimSport 177. Marco Steyer still is behind the wheel of that car. We spoke to him last night post qualifying 2. They were hoping for some rain. They've definitely got that in spades tonight. and they are currently 6th in GTE. So really, okay, they're 5 laps down off of Marco Massetti. You know, it was looking at one point we had a top 3 Italian team lockout of the rostrum in the early stages, but that really fell south rather quickly. Obviously, after the lightning that strikes thrice, not twice, for the team with Primavera in the 54 Musto esports car. They've had a real bad run of luck, and that's put them out of contention for a victory. That's put them P7, and they're 6 laps down off of the leaders. But GT3, I think, has given us once again quite a lot of bang for our buck over the last 11 or so hours, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, and Musto involved in what can only be described as a very unfortunate series of unfortunate events. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the sprint series back at Nürburgring, and Ewan's probably hearing this and thinking, oh god, not that race again. But it was Nürburgring, it was raining, and Musto essentially had the win on P2. And then as the rain came down at literally the midway point, instead of waiting 3 minutes and pitting and putting on the wets, they ended up putting out Manuel Biancalila on slick tyres on a wet track for about 20 minutes before pitting him, putting out their initial driver of Tiziano Brioni back out on wet tyres, all the way down towards the back of the grid. Tiziano Brioni then, I can only say, absolutely nailed lap after lap after lap and climbed up the field like a madman, only to be involved in about 3 or 4 incidents with other drivers and being spun around numerous times. So yeah, it's not been a good day for the 54. For the 53, it's been good. I don't think they can complain that they're leading the GTE class right now.
Yeah, and that really has some further ramifications for the championship. Obviously, HM Engineering not here. DQ for Pescara ADG in the number 7. That puts them literally, they won't score any points at all because that's an instant disqualification. That's it. You don't get anything. And in many respects, that really has opened the door for the 53 Musto GD Esports crew. But at the moment, there's a lot of now it looks like the number 66, Pauli Ahonen from Valente Racing, now in for the final pit stop with just under 49.5 minutes remaining. It's been a great and I have to give credit where credit is due. Let's be honest here, Yusuf, that the 66 finished P5 at Indianapolis. The 67 was outside of the top 10, no points at all, and they're looking good as now Shivan Balu now takes 3rd place as a result. He's just gone past the pit lane, so Ahonen still sitting in there at the moment. Now gets underway, the wipers on full speed on that number 66 Aston Martin as he makes his way out of the pit lane.
And the 67 car did have a good race at Indianapolis. It was just a case of being involved in numerous incidents and having to serve numerous penalties. So good to see that the 67 not involved in any incidents. I think maybe involved in one incident, or potentially that was the 66. Either way, Valente Racing looking pretty much set for a P3 and P4. It's a shame for Pauli Ahonen that at the moment he's having to pit a couple of laps before DIS, which will mean that it'll be that little bit trickier for him to close down Andy Kurtzen in the final stint of the race.
Yeah, the gap between them is quite lengthy, I might add, because effectively you're looking at about the best part of 100, that's 2 minutes that Pauli Ahonen has got to find in the next 48 minutes, and that is pretty much a big stretch for any driver worth their salt. But we know that obviously the Kimi Raikkonen of GTR 24H is going to give it full gusto. He's just going to throw caution to the wind despite the wet weather conditions. And who knows what might happen as Michael Ciccolini in the 766 DSR Dream Team LMP2 car now pits, and that looks to possibly be... It could involve a little bit of fuel saving there, I believe. Well, he's just come to the pit box at the end of pit lane here off of the Wing Complex at Silverstone. So that's going to mean at least he doesn't have to trundle all the way down that pit lane. Then what is it, about 80 kilometers an hour, because we've only had one code 80 in this race, and that was at close to quarter. That was about 2 this afternoon. The only code 80 that we've had. So I think the driving standards have been a lot better than we saw at Indianapolis. I think it was just like everyone was getting the rust off out of their systems, and then we come to Silverstone. They knew it was going to be a different circuit altogether, Yusuf, and they have acclimatized nicely into the true spirit of endurance racing here at GTR 24H this year.
Yeah, precisely. So also in that LMP2 class, I just want to point out, we will be seeing a battle for second place, because Turnlower, who is currently second in LMP2, is running about 2 seconds a lap slower than Chris Gonzalez, who's 12 seconds behind. And Gabor Hevesi in the 22 is 57 seconds behind Turnlower, but he's running over 3 seconds a lap quicker. So those three are really going to be Constantinoing up, and I think we're going to be having an absolute cracker of a battle in the final 10 minutes or so. Don't forget as well, in the GTE class, DIS SR and the 67 of Volante Racing still have to pit, which should bring the 66 of Pauli Ahonen back into play.
Well, roll a dice and pick a number, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't think you're going to get the right one on the first roll of the dice. And that just shows how we had this at Indianapolis, Yusuf. We had all these different changes in situation. We had dramas towards the end of it. We had people going hell for leather. You know, they're now at that point where they can see they can hold that checkered flag with one hand before crossing the stripe after what's been, you know, a really, really interesting 12 hours here at the Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone. Big thank you to Film Vault. The Film Vault, based out of Derby actually, have come on board with us for this round. So a big thank you to them for their fantastic support. Also, a big thank you to our viewers on Amazon Fire, Roku, and also Esports TV, and also on Facebook Live, Twitch, and YouTube. Thank you all for watching and getting involved on the respective chats on those particular channels. It's been a pleasure having you all along with us for the ride, and good to see so much interaction on so many different channels. So, Yusuf, coming up to it, 45 minutes to go. As much as this race has gone really, really quickly, when a few of us got together, I think it was about half an hour or so before we started the broadcast.
Yep.
This time's gone, hasn't it? It was just like Indianapolis. You just think, where has that time gone? It's literally vanished into thin air.
Yeah, you always get that, and it's the same in the 24-hour races as well. You just think, where has it gone? And I mean, in the 24-hour races, you tend to have a little sleep in the middle, and no matter which part you're sleeping through, you tend to think, what on earth has happened in those 8 hours that I was asleep? How has the whole field changed? How has these three, race runners had their incidents? And, we've seen it happen now to Vargo Sim Racing, and it's just a reminder to every team out there, to never give up, because that final 20% of the races, when the issues, the incidents, that's when everything starts coming into play, and that's when those who have been a little bit more careful on their engine and just been a bit nicer to their car will be able to reap the rewards, every now and then. And, sure, it might not happen 100% of the time, but, a few times out of 10, you will reap the rewards and you'll be able to gain those extra points.
Well, the 67 Volante, the sister Aston Martin, has actually exited out of the pits, and that means that they have had their final stop. Shivan Balu now still behind the wheel of the car, so that promotes Pauli Ahonen in the 66 sister Aston Martin. And it looks like also that,
DIS pitted.
Sorry?
I think DIS have pitted. Well, at least that's what it says on my screen.
Well, Drillers Esports in LMP2 have pitted, and also so has Carlos Bastor in the number 57. DIS has also pitted as well. You were right about that. So that is second in GTE. I'm going to keep an eye on Pauli Ahonen, because this could give...
It's coming into club now.
Yeah, coming into club now. And that gap now is dropping like the proverbial stone. It just depends on how quickly.
And Andy Kurtzen's out. He's heading down into Village Corner now. So I think the gap is just under 10 seconds between the two of them.
Yeah, well, Pauli Ahonen now firing it through like like he meant it, through into Abbey, and that is really making sure he now can. Well, the gap I think is about 15 seconds between the pair at the moment. So, and also Juices looks like that they have made. I think Turnlow is getting in for the final stint, I believe. He's currently in the pits. So that has really, and also, yeah, Carlos Basto is now back out on, and it looks like that one of the biggest things here is, Yusuf, is that keep your eyes on 334, Fair Racing Team. This could have a shorter pit stop for Chris Gonzalez as we head into the last 42 minutes.
Yeah, and the big question is going to be how much later can Chris Gonzalez pit? How much less fuel is he going to have to put in the car? Because that all plays a big impact. Don't forget Gabo Hevesi as well. You know, he's currently 26 seconds behind Turnlow, or I mean, he is at the moment. Turnlow is still in the pits, but I still think he's going to have a part to play. You know, he was 50 seconds behind, but he's lapping more than a second a lap quicker. And I think there is a chance that he could be finding himself on the podium come the end of the race.
I think you very well could be right there, Yusuf. I think anything's game roundabout now. So this is where it really does completely turn things on its head, so to speak. Now, I did see. I'm just sort of trying to keep an eye on what's happening in GT at the moment. So we've just got on board with Pauli Ahonen in the number 66. Looks to have a Porsche just up ahead. Now, for those wondering, what those blue lights that are flashing, the digital flags, those are for back markers. You can see that now. It's actually happening as certain cars being told, well, there is a faster car heading towards your back bumper. There's a couple of cars ahead. I think I counted 3, which included 4, included one of the LMP2 cars, as now they fire their way through into Abbey. Now someone went off big time, and that was one of the Musto cars. I'm just going to have a look and see who that was, if I can scout an eye on that particular number. And that is the 53. That is Marco Massetti, just up ahead of Pauli Ahonen in the number 66, and looks like Yusuf, I don't know if you wanted to we'll go to an interview in just a second, because Marco Mazzetti is all over the place. Mazzetti went wide. Pauli Ahonen could put himself onto the lead lap very, very shortly if Mazzetti's not careful.
Yeah, and I'm just going to try and see what happened to the 53 of Marco Massetti, because that is something that might just cost Musto a win. And what on earth has happened to them? I mean, I think there was an incident going into turn 1 where they almost ran into the back of a GT car, but that only costed them about 5 seconds. So I wonder if there was something else before that, or if that wasn't really the only actual incident.
Yeah, that definitely looked like a Porsche to me, and it was the one with the cream white and sort of like magenta purple stripe all the way down the middle, and that was the car that I think got in Mazzetti's way.
Yeah. I've got it up here now. So he comes through the final part of Club Corner, and I mean, to be honest, he just... It's almost like he just forgot to brake, and I mean, he aborts the corner, he rejoins the track, almost collects the white Porsche in the process, but it doesn't look like there was any damage to Marco Massetti. So hopefully for Marco Massetti, it's just a case of some last hour jitters.
Ooh, he got a tag there to Massetti from Pauli Ahonen there, going into Vale. Oh, the Finn is chancing his luck at the moment. I think I'll keep an eye on this battle, because this is for Pauli Ahonen to get himself back onto the lead lap. To be honest with you, I didn't expect fireworks. We've got 38 minutes and 53 seconds still to go. But I'll keep my eyes on that one well and truly, Yusuf, because this is for unlapping himself, and the Porsche. I'm just going to go with Massetti at the moment. Who's the Now I'm trying to keep my eyes on who that is in front. I can't tell whether that's a GTE or a GT3 car. I'm just going to try and Have a look. That is Marcus Stern, the 1677 ID Sim Sport car that is in front, and he's currently P6 in class. So Mazzetti's trying to put a lap down on him, as Pauli Ahonen has actually got past onto the lead lap, past Marco Mazzetti with just over 38 minutes to go. The Finn was not giving up on that one at all.
That is absolutely huge for Pauli Ahonen to get back on to the lead lap, and he's only 15 seconds behind DIS right now, so he's in a good situation. I think Marco Mazzetti still has to pit as well, still has to do his final pit stop. I don't think he's pitted in the last 15 or so minutes, so we'll have to see when the muster come in. It is likely just to be a splash and dash, and right now they just have to nurse the car home as they're currently a lap ahead of DIS. And I think Pauli Ahonen was just unlapping himself. I think he's still a lap down on Marco Mazzetti though.
Yeah, okay, we're now, with that being said, we're going to go to a interview, and I'm just going to drag them in now. This is the number 45 DIS SR Lab crew in the 45 Porsche. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us. Running P2 at the moment in the class, a lap behind Marco Mazzetti, but you guys have had a really good run here at the Film Vault 12 Hours. Just tell us about your race so far from your perspective.
Yeah, hello gents, Yannick here from the SR Lab car. It's turning out a bit of a nail biter for us, I feel like. I think the Musto cars, they're just in a class of their own. I think it's quite evident. I feel a bit sorry for the 54 guys. They had a great pace all weekend long. So, but yeah, it's turning out quite well. I think it's been a pretty hectic 12 hours, and it's turned out quite nice.
Now, I do have one big question to ask here, and this is the one that I think everyone wants to know from a lot of drivers. When the rain started intensifying with an hour to go, what was the team's initial reaction? Is it sort of like, we've got an opportunity to move forward a little bit, or is it a case that we could be safe here in P2?
I think we got a S up our sleeves, and his name is Andy Kurtzen. He's driving like a maniac right now, and when he saw the wets intensified, he was it didn't phase him at all. He's a machine like always. So I was it's always a pleasure having him on. But I think right now Volante, especially in the 66, they're caught up in a bit of the traffic, which is helping us out quite a bit. What is it? 15 seconds or so?
It's about 18 seconds now, to be honest with you, Yannick. So Pauli was, he managed to put unlap himself one lap to put him on the same lap as you guys, but then obviously you both are still a lap behind Marco Mazzetti in the 53. But did you all DIS SR Lab actually think that a podium might have been possible had it not been for the misfortune of the guys at 54?
No, I don't think it would be a realistic. Pescara was driving very well as well. So our goal was top 5, which is we would have been happy getting a 5th place. So this P2 is beyond expectations. But let's see. The fat lady haven't sung yet, so everything can happen.
Well, before I forget, Yannick, are there any sponsors that you guys at DIS SR Lab would like to thank for their continued support? Yeah,
sure. Especially our main sponsor, name sponsor, DIS. They're supplying us quite well here with us being able to sit here in our offices and driving. So a huge shout out to Michael and Soren for making this possible. It's great, and the delivery, of course, hopefully paying out for the stream as well.
Well, Yannick, we wish you all at this SR Lab the very best of luck over the next 34 minutes.
Thank you.
Great job so far, guys.
And great cast, guys.
Thank you. So really good to hear there from Yannick from this Sim Racing Lab there, Yusuf. Very, very insightful about the fact that they they knew that a podium wasn't on the cards, but when the team of Brioni Primavera came into strife with that lightning strikes thrice situation that they are really, really not going to be happy about, but it is racing. They had no idea about being on the podium, and now they've got this opportunity in the second round of the season. That's a great confidence boost for them.
Yeah, and I really like the attitude that DIS have brought into this season. They won GT3, they came into the GTE class, and I think they were very honest about it. They knew that there were a lot of quick drivers, a lot of quick teams around, and they said, look, we're just going to do the best that we can do. We spoke to them after Indianapolis, and they were just delighted with that P3. They said they weren't expecting it. They were just getting their heads on, and the P3 kind of came to them. And now here at Silverstone, it's been that same situation again. They've kept it clean. They've not made any mistakes, and now they're looking to go one better with a P2. Pauli Ahonen at the moment 14.5 seconds behind, but he's running at the same, and if not a little bit slower than Andy Kurtzen in the 45 car. So as long as they keep it nice and tidy, which is what they've been doing so far this season for the next 30 minutes, they have it in the bag.
Well, there is a bit of a fight brewing on the darkness horizon here at Silverstone. Chris Gonzalez, P2 for Fair Racing Team, has actually come out in front, the number 15 of Juices Motorsports. Turn lower in the number 15, who I spoke with a bit earlier on. The gap between them is around about the 3-second mark. Now, for those lacking a little bit of memory, let me just give you a bit of a memory jolt at the moment, because Joao Barbosa in that same car he definitely put the send on Chris Gonzalez after a failed attempt through maggots, and the way that turn lower, let's just put it this way. Turn lower, his last lap was a 2-minute 2.348. Now, Gonzalez's lap time was a 2:37.3, and that would effectively have been a 39-second gap. That's now gone down to 3.4 seconds. And so, turn lower. If he can pick up the pace, I'm sure that Nick Newcomb, if he gets an opportunity, will be sending messages to the rest of the team. Luca Gray, amongst others, will be looking to, and Joao Barbosa, to sort of help spur turn on and to try. They're in third position. They want that second place after that massive disaster for both the LMP2 car and the GTE car. Let's not forget Yusuf back at Indy 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, and you bring up that there'll be those supportive messages being sent, but I actually wonder if you'll be getting the complete opposite end, whether everyone in the Deuce's Motorsport Garage will just go dead silent. It'll be complete radio silence, and it'll be like, guys, shut up. Turn low is focusing. He needs to close down Chris here, right? Nobody talk and nobody move.
Well, I've just had a bit of info. Thank you, Nick Newcomb, as always, timely as ever. Guess who's on fresher tyres? It's not the 334. Turn lower is closing gap now down to 2.2 seconds. And I think just before we get to this really, really intense battle, we're going to go to a brief commercial break. We're under half an hour to go here at the Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone. We'll be back in a moment. And it looks like the explosions are ready to kick off for P2 in LMP2. Back in a moment. me in. Ladies and gentlemen, 25 minutes still to go. It is kicking off big style in LMP2. Some of those on the radio podcast that's happening live at this particular moment in time are listening. Now, here, Yusuf, I'm riding on board with turn lower. He is behind Chris Gonzalez from... Oh! Now, that was a bit of a... Now, that was an unexpected block there from the 177 ID SimSport car ahead of turn lower, and now lower's being compromised, trying to get on level peggings with Chris Gonzalez, and he's flashing like crazy, saying, come on man, get out of the way, I've got work to do. And his mission is to get P2 in the class.
Oh yes, it is. He's going to be absolutely flying. I mean, he closed up to Chris Gonzalez so quickly, and he's running probably more than a second a lap quicker, but now the issue is that there's a gap between them. Every time Chris Gonzalez laps the car, there's then a corner that turn lower has to wait before he can get past that same car. Also got a few other battles starting to develop across the field. Zoltan Privek 19 seconds behind Max Bunovic, and he's currently lapping, well, I wanted to say a second a lap quicker last time around. He went just a little bit slower. Other battles, DIS currently 12 seconds ahead of Pauli Ahonen, and that is going to go down to the wire. So 3 battles going on in 3 separate classes.
I'm just going to say something amidst obviously what's going on between Chris Gonzalez and turn lower. I've just noticed the back of Matthias Blom's Ferrari. If anyone might have seen that on the back when I was actually on board with turn lower a bit, it's got the hand in the way, and so like, stop, don't be that guy. That's brilliant livery inspiration there on the back of the number 13 from Danish Racing League. That's brilliantly done. But nevertheless, turn lower is again closing back. He's got one of the Volante cars just between himself and Chris Gonzalez. So they're now coming through Woodcote and Luffield and heading into Copse Corner. Turn lower has got the run on the Aston Martin and has got past. Now he's got some clear air between himself and Chris Gonzalez, but this battle far from over yet, I fear.
Yeah, I also got word in from Bart Slobodzian from that 66 Volante racing car, and he's told me that if they get P2 in this race, they promise that they're going to give us an interview during the next race.
Okay, we're holding them to that.
Exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get my notepad right now and I'm going to write that down.
I can screenshot it if you want.
No. I'm going to... yeah, screenshot it and I'll write it down. We'll do... Oh my God. So, what's going on with the stream, Yusuf? Inform me.
I'm looking. Bart Slobodzian said give him a cookie for second. And apparently Paul Holt told turn lower that he earns a milk he earns a milk if he gets the podium spot. Okay.
Oh, now hang on a minute. We've just had a 3-car spin just a moment ago, and that was DI. Oh, DIS.
Down the inside. That's a move. That's turn lower going down the inside of Chris Gonzalez. Gonzalez has the inside now, going into the loop. They're side by side, and can turn lower find the traction as they make their way through Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. They're nose to tail right now.
Yeah, and I've just heard that there's been a 3-car spin, one of which was Zolt Pribek from DIS is up the inside, tries to go turn lower through the next left-hander into Brooklands, and he's got the job done on Chris Gonzalez. Great move by the number 15, as now Martin Hemmingson closes on their back bumper, the overall leader. Wow, absolutely spectacular action with just over 21 and a half minutes remaining in the Film Vault 12 Hours at Silverstone. And what's more, Yusuf, Chris Gonzalez is not going away. He's right on the back bumper, and you can see, for those watching, I'm looking on the onboard right now, Gonzalez is trying to chase down turn lower, and if I'm completely honest here, this fight is far from over by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, this fight is not going to be over. Also looking further down the field as well, Pauli Ahonen now 2 seconds behind DIS, and that is the battle for second place in the GTE class. So battle for second in LMP2 and battle for second in GTE, but it seems that in the LMP2 class, now that Turn Lower has found a way through on Chris Gonzalez, he is really starting to pull the pin.
He definitely has, and what's more, Martin Hemmingson is actually the car that's piggy in the middle, and you can just see that Chris Gonzalez. Now, Nick Newcomb was very, very matter of fact when he said that they only took on fuel. That's a clear indication, as Tom Christensen once said back in 2011, Truth in 24-2, every second's count. Every second counts. You want your weapons sharp. He had that. Lotterer came in. They had a slow puncture. They changed all 4 tyres, and Lotterer went out and won it. And that was the sole surviving Audi in that Le Mans 24 hours. That's what, and that was a great call by the team at Deuces. But now Hemmingson has got past. Turn Lower, looking. I hope for his. I'm going to do something here, not something I normally do, but just in case, touch wood, for Turn Lower, because that's a fantastic performance. They're still a lap down from PinSim Drillers Esports, who look to also not just take the overall victory in LMP2, but also it still be 2 for 2 in Hypercar for the number 10 McLaren Senna GTR, and they've done a fantastic job. Obviously, we are still waiting on what, and now they've got Marcel Sinsik behind the wheel, back behind the wheel of the number 117 Vargas Sim Racing car, which is still showing in P6 at the moment. But Chris Gonzalez, I think he's trying to close, and that gap is looking to extend. It's now 2.2 seconds between Gonzalez and Lower, and I think now Fair Racing Team have to resign themselves to the fact they should have put tyres on. They could have been so much quicker, and that could have meant that Chris Gonzalez could have fought tooth and nail with Turn Lower for second in LMP2.
I'm really surprised that they didn't put tyres on the car, because Chris Gonzalez looked quicker than Turn Lower at the end of the previous stint. He was closing in. So I thought they had the pace, even if they were 10 seconds behind, to be able to close that gap at the rate that they were closing prior to the pit stop. But clearly they thought, okay, if we've got this much pace, then on old tyres we should be able to defend the position. But Turn Lower said, not a fat chance. I got the fresh tyres, I'll pull the move, and now he's up pulling by around a second a lap. Battle for P2 in LMP2 may be completed, but the battle for P2 in GTE is not, because Pauli Ahonen is now 1.4 seconds behind the DIS Porsche of Andy Kurtzen. He can see him through the mist of the rain that is pouring here at Silverstone in Northamptonshire as we reach the final 20 minutes of the EEWC round 2, the 12 hours of Silverstone, presented by Film Vault.
Right, just riding on board with Pauli Ahonen, and he is now a second and a half behind Andy Kurtzen in the DIS SR Lab 45 Porsche 911 GTE. And just looking at the different lines that the drivers are taking, they're trying to put the power down as late as possible to prevent that rear wheel spool up, because if you boot the power too early, you can actually cause the car, if you're going over wet curbing on the outside of the circuit or on apex, you can spin the car around, and that was very, very treacherous going through Cops Corner. Pauli Ahonen still trying to close on Andy Kirsten in that car, and the gap now is around 1.4 seconds. They're going through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. This is not where you want to make a mistake, and Pauli Ahonen is doing his absolute level best to keep that 66 car in the prime seat for P2 in the GTE class with just over 16 and a half minutes to go. I don't think Andy Kirsten feels that he's quite safe just yet.
And we were talking to the Danish Nico Rosberg himself, more commonly known as Yannick Gotthardsson, and he was talking about, they've got Andy Kurtzen at the wheel, they feel confident. Well, We hope that Andy Kurtzen himself is feeling confident, because right now it is looking like he is this man right here, Pauli Ahonen, who is absolutely flying right now. His last lap as he comes across the line, 2 minute 12.3 on the previous lap. He's going 2 seconds quicker than Marco Mazzetti, who is practically limping it around, just making sure that nothing bad can happen and just making sure that he finishes the final 15 minutes incident free. This last time round, Pauli Ahonen, a 2 minute 10.9, the fastest man in the GTE class, period.
Yeah, but also just been informed by race control. The second place car in GT3, the 41 Mugen sim racing car, piloted by Zolt Priebeck, not showing the amount of respect required to the 188, that is of Teleforingen, with Michael Slot behind the wheel, and that issue caused Michael Slot to spin off of the track as a result of it. But Pauli Ahonen now has that motivational point in front of him, and that is the 45 Porsche 911 GTE of DIS SR Labs Andy Kirsten. We're going into the dying moments. We have less than 15 minutes on the clock. Leaders in the respective classes are as follows: Hypercar Pin Sim Drillers Esports in the number 10. The number 17 Pin Sim Drillers Esports, piloted by James Juba, leads LMP2. Marco Mazzetti in the 53 Musto GD Esports BMW M8 GT3 leads by a lap ahead of what this battle is showing round about now. It looks like the fireworks have come, courtesy of Pauli Ahonen to Andy Kirsten. They've got the... is that the 41 up ahead of Mugen Sim Racing? That's compromised Andy Kirsten. They're coming through Stowe. Pauli Ahonen now sees the opportunity he needs, as that looks like the 41 has gone into the pit lane, but that is going through Vale and now into Club, and Pauli Ahonen right on the back bumper of Andy Kirsten, trying to go through Club corner. He's going to get a real good corner traction coming out of Vale. They're now going to head into Abbey. I'm now going to ride on board with Pauli Ahonen into Abbey. He lifts off. He just sees what Andy Kirsten does. Kirsten just a little bit to the left-hand side, going through Farm. Now into the tight right-hander at Village before they go into the left out the loop. Deep on the brakes go both drivers, but Pauli Ahonen for the moment, Yusuf, is keeping his nose clean. He's just waiting for that moment to strike at a moment's notice.
And Pauli Ahonen is at the moment searching for any piece of tarmac that's not being covered by Andy Kurtzen. He's looking, right, can I go wide into this corner? Can I try to find the exit here? He had a little bit of a think about going down the inside into a Village, but was unable to do so, slotting in behind it now down into Brooklands. Also good news as well if you're a Mazda fan, because Daniela Primavera is at 10 seconds behind Marcus Stehr. He's brought that gap down from what was about 50 seconds half an hour ago, and he might be within a shout of gaining one more position. But for now, our eyes are focused on this battle for P2 in the GTE class, because DIS SR Lab and Andy Kurtzen still ahead of Pauli Ahonen in the 66 Volanta racing car.
So GT3 still being currently led by the 717 Aston Martin Vantage V8 GT3 of Unison Racing, and it still has at the moment Max Bunovic behind the wheel of that the steed from Gaydon. But Pauli Ahonen doing everything that he can. Both he and Kirsten, they're literally Kirsten has a bit of a wobble coming through the corner, and they're going down. I think this is the Hanger Straight heading down towards Stoke Corner. Kirsten had a bit of a moment. The back end stepped out to the right-hand side, going through Chapel, as now they go into the right at Stoke Corner. Ahonen really lays on the brakes, closing up to the Porsche. And now they've got the run through Vale, and Kirsten very, very close to exceeding track limits on the left-hand side as they go in towards Club and then Vale. Ahonen still waiting, still biding his time. And also, we just had the number 22 was not showing any respect by the number 68 car, and that was of E-Team Brit as an LMP2. Fires its way up the inside of Andy Kirsten through Cops Corner. Kirsten runs wide. Pauli Ahonen to the outside of the corner. He's going to get the inside run for the very next right-hander. And has Pauli Ahonen done the move?
He's outbraked himself.
He hasn't. Kirsten's got the switchback. Kirsten got him back on the switchback there. And right behind them, they've got the LMP2 class leader of James Stuber. This is not over yet. We're going into the last 10 minutes. Mamma mia, what a story is being unfolded before our very eyes. But Andy Kirsten from DIS SR Lab has still kept ahead of Pauli Ahonen. But Ahonen looking to close up once again.
Pauli Ahonen is going to be kicking himself. He's going to be banging his hand in frustration. How did he let such a good opportunity go to waste? He had the inside into Village, but he got that little bit greedy on the brakes. He went right, he went wide, and Andy Kurtzen snapped at the opportunity. Andy Kurtzen driving absolutely fantastically right now, but you can see in the way that Pauli Ahonen is driving, he's got so much more confidence in the car, in the wet setup. Look how much more curb he's using on the entry, on the apex, and on the exit. He's using up as much track as he can possibly find right now. We have a 10 minutes remaining in the race, which equates to about 6 laps.
Involving car number 68
but then,
car number
hang on a second, we thought it was kicking off for P2 in GTE. Yusuf, I've got a bit of a newsflash. Chris Gonzalez,
same as above.
I think he's not that far away from turn lower. The battle for P2 and LMP2 on again between these two. I think Chris Gonzalez has been saving a little bit in reserve as we now go into the last 10 minutes officially here at the Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone. Hang on to your hats, folks. It's going to be a very, very bumpy ride.
How about this? I ride on board with Mr. Chris Gonzalez, and you sit on board with our man, our very own Kimi Räikkönen, Pauli Ahonen.
Yes, indeed. So,
split screen time.
Yes, indeed. This is going to please our directors because at the moment we have to say that there has been a bit of a fairy tale. It's pretty much been decided to the tune of a 5-lap victory at the end of it from what will be in the next 9 minutes or so, that from 25th on the grid overall, the number 10 of Pinsim Jewelers Esports, Martin Hemmingson, who started in that car 9 on 12 hours ago, is in for the final stint. And obviously the incident I referred to earlier, that was actually Max Spooner behind the wheel of the E-Team Brit car getting a bit of a slap on the wrist as well. And Pauli Ahonen gets the run on Andy Kirsten. He's nearly 2 wheels on the grass. This is going through Vale into Club Corner. Pauli Ahonen gets the inside, but Kirsten goes around the outside of him and hits the apex perfectly. Wow, my goodness me, Andy Kirsten just absolutely mugged Pauli Ahonen, and he made Ahonen know about it because the back end stepped out sideways coming out of Luffield.
Yeah, wow.
Out of Vale, sorry.
Absolutely fantastic driving from Andy Kurtzen, and this is why his team had faith in him. They know how good Andy Kurtzen can be. We've seen him put in the laps, we've seen his racecraft before, but right now his racecraft is being pushed to the absolute limit. Pauli Ahonen searching for any way through. He got that one golden opportunity when Andy Kurtzen was getting lapped. Will he get that kind of opportunity again? Who knows?
Well, that depends on whether Andy Kirsten makes an unforced error, and he nearly made one just a second ago. That was going through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. It was actually Luffield it was actually through Brooklands, Woodcote and Luffield that move did happen. That I cannot believe that Andy Kirsten just literally did the school of send round the outside to get back at Pauli Ahonen. But Ahonen isn't done yet. They're now heading through Vale. They've just exited Stowe into the left, which will take them into Club and into Vale. And Pauli Ahonen again deep on the brakes, but he's making sure that he's leaving enough distance between himself and Andy Kirsten to not allow race control to have any shred of opportunity to get a penalty at him right at the flag, because if that did happen, then Shivan Balu could possibly get into second position. But Pauli Ahonen threw absolute caution to the wind, and he's really closed up in that, through that sort of first bit through Abbey Farm and into the right-hander at Village. Pauli Ahonen, I think we've got 6 minutes and 50 seconds left to go here, Yusuf. That's how excited I am. I'm tripping over my own tongue at the moment. Pauli Ahonen he's keeping Andy Kirsten honest, but Kirsten has got the measure of Pauli Ahonen at the moment. But that could be too little too late for Pauli Ahonen.
You say keeping him honest. Well, right now Chris Gonzalez is keeping Turn Lower honest because he's within half a second of the number 15 Deuces Motorsport car. And we talked about, Nick Newcomb mentioned how Turn Lower had those fresher tires. Well, here's something about fresh tires. They go off. And now that they've gone off, you are on equal footing. It doesn't matter if you've got 4-lap older tires. Sure, fresh tires versus 4-lap old tires, you'll have an advantage. But when you've got 6-lap old tires versus 9-lap old tires, that's not as much of a difference. And right now, Chris Gonzalez is showing that he's a faster man in the wet conditions here at Silverstone.
Oh my goodness me. Really, I thought there was going to be a grandstand finale. I did not use it in my wildest dreams to expect soon in the same folds through as Kurtzen still keeping ahead about 5 to 6 car lengths ahead of Pauli Ahonen as one of the LMP, well, there's a couple of LMP2 cars that have just gone through. One of them was the Pro Sim car in the 007. Oh, tag! Kirsten gets taken out! Kirsten gets taken out and through Stoke Corner. Pauli Ahonen now gets the lead through no fault of Andy Kirsten's. One of the LMP2 cars literally tried to go to the inside of the and that was not the Pro Sim car, that was the car actually up ahead. And I'm wondering who that was, because in many respects that has literally dashed Andy Kirsten's opportunity of having a podium, and he could have had as high as second position. That's disaster, but that has given it on a silver platter to Pauli Ahonen in the 66 for Lante Racing. We were deprived of what could have been a fantastic finale for P2 and GTE right there and then.
Oh, come on, you have got to be kidding me. Honestly, no words right now. I mean, usually you complain about the lap cars that are causing the issues in a battle, but this time it's the lapping cars causing the issue. However, let's just put that behind us and focus on this battle, because Chris Gonzalez is on the back of a turn lower, and this is going to go right down to the wire. I think that's one of the Ferraris getting out of the way. No, forced to come back on circuit. And Turn Lower will have to go down the inside, down into Abbey. And Chris Gonzalez will follow through. Just over 3 minutes remaining. Or I should say just under 3 minutes remaining here at Silverstone. And there aren't many options left for Chris Gonzalez to claim that second place spot.
I'm just going to mention about this GTE battle. Mika Hakkinen said, no, that's not how I wanted to see the battle go. Mika, we are exactly of the same opinion. Mission Spino saying a bad way for the battle to end. We completely agree. That was... I'm speechless.
Yeah. And I feel like if that was Pauli Ahonen who had made that contact, he can slow down, he can let DIS back through. I think race control wouldn't give a penalty. They kind of go with it's boys racing and just let the drivers get on with it as long as the time gets given back. But not like this. Not like this at all. It is such a shame for it to end this way.
Yeah, I think that is definitely going to be investigated, if I'm honest with you. 2 LMP2 cars came to blows. One of them, it was the 007 of ProSim, who are running in 11th position in class at the moment. But we have just under 3 minutes to go, or make that 2 minutes and 40 seconds still to go in this race. And yeah, I think just everyone... the amount of people that have been watching to see such a great battle come to an end. However, hang on a minute, I'm just keeping an eye on things right now.
Is Pauli going to let him through?
Now, hang on a second, I'm just going on board. Is that Ahonen? That's Ahonen.
Yeah, it's Ahonen.
That gap is now half a second. Now, I'm not too sure what's happened there, but Pauli Ahonen was about 6 seconds up the road.
He must have slowed down. He must have slowed down for it.
To be honest with you, I think he's doing the gentlemanly thing. But at the end of the day, Andy Kirsten was a good half second in front of him. It was not Andy Kirsten's fault. I don't think and this is just from a personal observation point. I don't think, Pauli Ahonen will probably let Andy Kirsten get up close and personal.
But he won't let him through.
Won't let him through, because the fact is, if, as you said, Pauli Ahonen, if he'd done that mistake, he would have done the gentlemanly thing. I think he's just showing a bit of professional courtesy to Andy Kirsten. That's mutual sporting respect right there between those two drivers. So hats off to Pauli Ahonen for, I think, the sportsman gesture of the evening.
Yeah, and I think to any people out there, and I know there are a lot who say that when there's money involved, drivers would kill their own grandma for an extra tenner in a prize money, and I think Pauli Ahonen has done an absolutely fantastic thing if he has slowed down to bring the battle back into play. I mean, sure, he hasn't let him through, but I think that is more than DIS could have even hoped for. So we still have two battles that can go to the very end, which is fantastic to see, with Andy Kurtzen half a second behind Pauli Ahonen. But take a look at the LMP2 battle, because right now Chris Gonzalez is on the back of turn lower, and there are four lap cars up ahead that they have to navigate through.
Oh, I've just had news about Pauli Ahonen. You're not going to believe this. Cut track drive-through for Pauli Ahonen. Oh my goodness me. Oh, the tail just gets even worse as we reach the end of this race.
Apparently he served the drive-through, that's why they're close again.
Okay. But the timer on the counter is about to hit 0. Well, would you believe that? Oh my goodness me. But the time is counting down. We are going to hit 0 on the clock here at the Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone. And from 25th position on the overall grid, Martin Hemmingsen, who started for PinSim Drillers Esports nearly 12 hours ago. The clock has struck 0 officially. Round 2 is pretty much in the books. And what is happening now? Martin Hemmingsen is making his way through Brooklands, Woodcote, Luffield. He'll then have Cox Corner to go. And then you have got Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. And it's been a great drive from this crew. Jan Wojnicka, Henry Sinnick, Martin Hemmingsen doing an absolutely sterling textbook job. They took the lead after 45 minutes and have not looked back. That is an impressive performance. Oh, hang on a minute. James Juba has just entered the pit lane.
It should be fine. He's a lap bit clear of turn lower. Car 17 not respecting car 22 when overtaking. That was Gabor Hevesi. So he's going to serve that drive-through penalty, but he's fine. He's over a lap ahead of a turn lower, who still has Chris Gonzalez hot on his heels as they make their way through Beckett. And
it's a splash of fuel for James Juba anyway. However, we now turn our attention to the race leader. As massive moment there. Andy Kirsten spins round in front of Martin Hemmingsen, but Hemmingsen gives him a little tag. But it is a second victory in a row. Drillers Esports in the hypercar class win round 2. It's a 100% success rate in hypercars. A great job by them. Once again, it's close but no cigar for the number 80 of Josef Fredrik Sulto, who now will cross the line 5 laps down in second position and flashes the lights. Another top 3 for the number 80 of Omicron Sim Racing. And I think now we're just heading over to James Juba in the number 17. What about this one though, Yusuf? PinSim Drillers Esports secures hypercar victory, and now in about half a lap's time, James Juba brings it home for the LMP2 squad. We heard from Jerome Kriegel a bit earlier on in the broadcast, but what a fantastic job by this team. Obviously difficulties for Marcel Sinsig and also the crew at Vargas Sim Racing. They're down by 3 laps off of this number 17 LMP2 car. If I'm honest with you, turn lower, I'm just going to have a quick look back at that. There's been a spinner in the background, but it looks like turn lower, finishing a lap down, has secured second place, I believe, for Juice's Motorsport, ahead of Fair Racing Team's Chris Gonzalez, and it wasn't much in it between the pair on that particular occasion.
No, it wasn't, and Chris Gonzalez will be wondering why he couldn't find that pace a little bit earlier on. And well, for Pinsim Drillers, they repeat what they did back in Le Mans last year in October, winning the hypercar class and the LMP2 class in the same race. Fantastic result for them. We talked about it in the pre-show, didn't we, Alex? If there is if there's one team that can challenge Varga Sim Racing and that can pounce when Varga Sim Racing make a mistake, it will be Pinsim Drillers. And that's exactly what they've done. Don't forget Pinsim Drillers starting from the back of the grid as well.
P28. Look at that for a fairy tale story. The hypercar starts in P25, takes the victory overall, and then the LMP2 car finishes in the victory, third overall in the overall classification, but Victor's in, and that's a gain of 25 positions, 24 by the sister car in LMP2. Marco Mazzetti now is in his way through, and Mazzetti has already got P1 in the bag, pretty much as both he and Josef Frederick Suto make their way into pit lane. So Mazzetti and Musto GD Esports take a victory ahead of the number 66 of Volante Racing, with Pauli Ahonen behind the wheel. DIS SR Lab, despite that last moment, that last lap turnaround, probably on his own merit, I think, for Andy Kirsten. After what's been an exhausting race for all the teams, they finish P3 in GTE. And once again, Unison Racing secure GT3 glory. Around about 65 seconds ahead of the Mugen Sim Racing 41 of Zolt Priebeck. A good result for 26 One Move Esports, with Ludovic Darcuy bringing the car home. And that is your respective top threes here at the conclusion of the Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone. A big thank you to Film Vault for sponsoring this round here, a home round for everybody on the commentary team pretty much, and also for them as well, being based in Derby. That's really about it for the race coverage. We're going to have a lot of talking points to dissect in the post checkered flag show here on GTR24H. A big thank you also to all our viewers on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch, and also on Esports TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku as well. We will be back after a commercial break to dissect the Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone, only here on GTR24H. Back in a moment, folks.
The 2021 Endurance E-Racing World Championship Round 2, Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone, is brought to you in partnership with ESTV, Leak Gaming, SimLab, Motorvision.tv, Global Flix, Racing for Green, and AMD Ryzen Radeon.